Morning guys, this is what we're going to do today. A nice portrait that we enhance with some CG elements, all those butterflies. I will show you how I go from this to this. So we're in Blender. All I have right now is my camera and we have butterflies so that we can just duplicate them around and spread them around. If you want to know how I done these, just go to one of my other videos where I created them from scratch and rigged them all up and stuff. It's good fun. Bringing in the photo. We go on to File, Import, Images as Planes. With the image selected, you want to make sure that on the right hand side there's a material settings. You set this to emission. Oh yeah, so we want to line it up. So select the camera, Shift S, cursor to selection, then select the image that we just imported, Shift S, selection to cursor, and then just G, Z twice and you bring it back. We brought it back a bit too far, but that's alright. Bring it back a bit further, jump back in the camera and then just S for scale and then scale it up until we hit the edge of our frame there. The field of view of the camera matches, as I mentioned already, it matches my image. So if you don't have that, what you want to do is go into your shader editor, select the image that you just imported there. Note, you will see its dimensions in your render settings and you just match that. And I mentioned I have the butterflies in here already. So there's a blue one right there and there's a red one right there. Jumping back into the camera, go into my main controller and I just want to place these fellas. So we have a light source coming from right here, which gives us some nice backlight on her hair, shoulders, but we also have a big light source, a much softer light source coming from camera left there, and we want to bring this in as well. Otherwise all her face would have been completely dark, probably as dark as we have you know, all the shadows here in the this is terrible. Her face would have been as dark as areas down here, those shady places under the canopy, and we don't want that. So I would say we start with the backlight, because it's actually quite interesting to start with something that makes things pop right away. So go in the camera view and just move it to roughly where I see my bright light here. So again, like there's my center. And here I think it's a bit big, so I'm gonna scale it down a bit. So it's a bit weak, but there we start to see, especially on the top one there, start to get some nice glow happening there. I might just grab this fella and just see if we can rotate him a bit of that. Yeah, that is nice. And maybe grab this fella here, and now I selected the wings and I'm just gonna go through the animation on the wings just to find a pose that is a little bit more interesting for this angle. Pointing up a bit. Now, the one problem is we have at the moment is that alone will not make them pop enough. We have nice glowy elements, but especially this fella here, we can't see it all. It's too far away from the backlight. Selecting this light, press M and put it in my lights collection. There it is, and I'm calling it light back, and then I'm just gonna go on the top view here, Shift D, duplicate it around, rotate it so it faces the other way, and I probably just bring it down a bit and make it big. This one comes from camera left, and I really want this to be nice and soft. That does, and you can tell, especially this fella up here in the top left, it's benefiting from that light, but also this one down here. So let's just see what this light, we call it light key, what this light can do for us. So find a sweet spot where the butterflies just start to fit into everything. Like we have to keep her dress. This dress here is our reference, right? And we want to get to that as well. So we crank things up a little bit more. But I also notice that we still have a lot of shade in the butterflies, and that is coming from areas where we don't have any light established. So let's just bring in some fill light. Oh, that was too much, so maybe at 0.3. See the difference there? Yeah, I feel like we're on a good way there. So I might just angle down this light a bit. So it's RY twice, so we can just point it down a bit more, and at some stage the top butterflies will receive less light from this. See that? How it sort of starts to flicker? This is the cool thing about area lights. You can nicely angle them away from whatever annoys you. Yeah, I think I'll go with that, because the top ones I want to be dominated by the backlight really. And that is actually doing quite a nice job there. I might just go to 120. Yeah, that's nice. A lot of glow happening. Now let's say you want a butterfly to land on the floor. Right now there's nothing that could cast a shadow on. So we're gonna create a plane, bring it down, scale it on X, maybe on Y as well until all the edges are there. Then we're gonna jump into edit mode, right click, subdivide, and subdivide it one more time, just for good measure. So with all polygons selected, say project from view. Nothing happened because no material is applied. So right now we're gonna create a new material for that. Control T, and we use our image, or that we used for the import images background, for a backdrop, based on the camera, right? So we project it on, and now we roughly know also where her feet are based on our perspective. So it makes more sense if we're here. Not so much when we're here, but with shift right click you can place your 3D cursor, and if you jump back into the camera you will see that that 3D cursor corresponds, that position up there corresponds exactly with that position here. See how even the annotation just circled right around it? Beautiful. So that's a true location, and now we can say, just make this a blue butterfly on the ground. So we select the blue collection, right click, duplicate collection, and we go Shift S, selection to cursor. And if I zoom in there now, zoomy, we can see that we have successfully integrated this butterfly with our ground. Oops. Let's just make him face that way as well. Select the wings, put him in a rest position of something. Beautiful. And if I wanted to place this dude a little bit more center, G, Shift Z to just slide him on that ground plane now, and it just works a treat. Beautiful. The last thing to do would be to render out the butterflies on their own and the shadow. Go into render layer. So up there on the top right, that's where my render layers are. So right now I have a main render layer, and I don't want the background to be seen. So this image here, actually the ground and the backdrop where my model is, these two things I don't really want to see. So I'm gonna put them in a new collection. Shadow, catcher. Boom. There they are. The image doesn't render as anyway, it's disabled for rendering, but just to double check, this is what we want. The butterflies for this have to be active, and the shadow catchers we're gonna set right click to indirect only. So this way we get only the butterflies as our main layer, but now our shadows are gone, right? Let's duplicate our main layer, copy settings, call this shadow. I hope this all makes sense. If not, leave me a comment and I try to clarify a little later. So now we're on this shadow render layer, and we need to right click on our butterflies now and set view layer indirect only. So now we see nothing, but if we right click on our shadow layer and clear the indirect only, our ground plane is back in. And here we're gonna say ground, select the ground, go in object settings, which is here right in the middle of the orangey yellowy box, and we scroll down to visibility in general and activate shadow catcher. And it's hard to see, here it is, there's our shadow, and that is the only thing we want to have in this layer. So this is render layers. All right, so here's our photograph. There's a few things we want to address. We have a few things to tidy up down there. There's a bit of the tripod from that light. This is just a cable. Overall, the look is too cold for my warm summery feeling. Let's get the colors sorted. With Control Shift A, we're gonna open that image in Camera Raw, and under Color Mixer, we will just go hard out on the greens and just pull them towards something much warmer. So if this would be a raw file, you would actually be able to pull those colors much further than this. But since it's a smart object, we just go right back into our camera raw and repeat the same process, and now it will have a lot more impact now. Beautiful. So now you see we have 2 camera raw adjustments down here, and we can easily dial them back in. So now I would say we rasterize that layer, and J, and we just quickly draw over that to get rid of that cable, and over there to get rid of the tripod. Done. Bring in the butterflies. Beautiful. And you go with as many butterflies you want. So these are obviously more than what we had before. And here our shadows. I actually put the shadows under the butterflies, and now we have ground into action as well. It still feels like there's some direction missing, so now we're gonna go on a new layer, and I might just pick one of the warm colors we have there. G was gradient, and I'm just gonna drag that from the top to the middle there, and it looks terrible right now, but we're going to set this to screen. Nice. And now we're going to go for another layer and put this under this. And what I like to do is just go for a color that is different but similar. So I'm going to go for pink here right now. We're going to spread this one out even a bit further. And we also say that this one is, I think one of them has to be smaller a bit. So we just go with, but this is way too powerful. So let's just dial this. Yeah, here we go. And I'll probably make this a bit bigger just so that we have a bit more. And you can see this is just bringing in some flair. Those butterflies in the top now start to be sucked into the image, but the ones on the bottom, they're not so much. So what I want to do here then is gradient map. This is quite a good preset actually already that we have here. We're going to set this to very little. Like this is like 8% right now, but it does something especially to the darker areas. So here we have our image. I think the process is relatively easy and fast. You just have to understand where the lighting comes from the photograph, and recreate that in your 3D scene for your elements. So I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.